Good morning, Devil Dog Day Trade community. My name is Michael, and I'll be taking you all through our day trading setup process for today, December 29th, 2021. Special welcome to all of you who have served or are serving in the armed forces, and even more special welcome to all my fellow Marines out there. Semper Fi, Jarheads. Just a reminder, we do have people from different levels and experience that attend these sessions, and we do make sure that we try and present information that will resonate with all those different levels of understanding and experience as well. However, if you're new here and something doesn't make sense to you or you want some additional information on it, please just leave us a note in the chat there. We'll make sure that we answer it. If you're watching the video later on, leave a comment and we'll make sure we get back to you as quickly as we can. Just a quick note about upcoming events. We'll have one more show tomorrow. However, no live show on Friday as most of the markets are over. So again, one more show tomorrow, and then we'll see everyone again in the new year. So first thing we do is look through what happened in the last 24 hours from a major event perspective and what's coming up in the next 24 hours. Flip over to Forex Factory to take a look at that. And as you can see here on Tuesday, we had nothing big going on, just a couple of small, low impact numbers coming out. And the same thing for today, nothing big at all. The only thing, just keep in mind at 10:30 for crude oil inventories, as even though that's yellow, those can still spike, within about 20 or 30 cents per contract there. And so just a smaller time frame trade, just be careful right at that 10:30 time if you're trading crude oil. And then just a note, looking at Thursday as well, nothing big coming up. Again, we'll check that tomorrow just to make sure nothing else was scheduled. Flipping back over to our TradingView platform, take a look at some of our correlation markets. We'll start with the DAX. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of weakness right now. And as we had talked a little bit, or not actually quite a bit about yesterday, of looking at when were the markets going to correct. We've had several up days in a row here, and we saw some indications that may be upcoming based on the negative divergence in RSI on a couple of the major indexes, the ES in particular, a little bit on the NASDAQ and YM as well. And then, of course, we did have RTY hitting that daily zone. Even though it wasn't a strong one, we knew there was going to be some sort of movement out of there. So this move down right now is not unexpected. And so we'll take a look and see where we could potentially see prices change on here. And just from the DAX perspective, there isn't a whole lot of good areas to look at. Nothing on the daily and 240-minute chart. We've got a couple of, I would say, smaller, weaker zones here on our 60-minute chart, but I would be very hesitant to take any of these. I'll just draw them out though, so that you can kind of get an idea of where they, prices may change at. But again, these are relatively weaker zones overall. Nothing that has a lot of strength here. And so just be very cautious about trying to take any of these trades. Just watch them, monitor them, and use this as indications of what the overall global market situation is. All right, let's go ahead and flip over to TradeStation to continue to look at some of our correlating markets, and we'll start with the dollar. And again, just daily, from a daily perspective, right, we're still going back and forth in this area right here. So just to kind of set context, we don't expect any really big movements out of this area. You can take smaller day trades here for sure, but until we get confirmation of where prices is going on a bigger time frame, we don't want to get into any of those longer term trades. The only other thing that we have of interest here in the dollar is really this on the 60-minute chart here. And as you can see, we did poke right above this this zone right here, and so the area clearly has a fair bit of imbalance in it. It's a little bit of a messy area here. You can see on the overall structure of the base candles in here. So you really weren't sure where price was going to actually change in here. And again, I wouldn't expect this to be a bigger trend change type of a move, but you certainly did get some activity out of it. You'll see on the Euro charts here in just a second, there were some correlating demand zones in these same areas as well. And again, really the only thing of any structure that we have here on the dollar that's going to stop this drop here and potentially push things back up again is this area right here. And so just looking at this on my live dashboard to my left, right, prices come down a little bit further right now, and we're actually into this area as we speak. So it'll be interesting to see, is price going to pop back out of here and continue a little bit further up before we hit any of the stronger zones that are up above this area where we're at right now. And just to, again, to point one of these areas out, and I think we've got this marked on a higher time frame one as well, but you've got this, picture perfect zone area right here, with is the rally base drop area. And so this would be one of those ones where I could certainly expect a bigger price movement change coming down out of this particular area here. All right, so that's really it for major activity on the dollar area here. And again, we're just kind of biding our time now, waiting for price to get out of that white space so we can get a better indication of where price is going to be going overall. And so just flipping over to the euro real quick, just to kind of show those opposing correlation zones. I'll actually start with the futures. And even though this area wasn't clear on the 60-minute the way it was on the dollar, you get onto the 15-minute area here, and you can get a much better view of what actually happened here. So on the opposing side of this, right, so the dollar had a supply zone, so the euro would have demand zones, and we had this formation right here where you had this zone sitting right on top of this one. And again, because of the way the structure is, with the second zone having the taller leg out candle here, you would expect price to come a little bit deeper into this overall area. And as we look to our right over here, that's exactly what happened, right? Price came in, bounced off of this first area here just slightly, came into the second one, and then has a very strong move away from there. So that's just a good way to use those opposite correlation areas. You can sometimes get, if the dollar picture isn't quite as clean, which that one wasn't, that structure was a little bit messy, go look on the euro futures or the euro USD forex pair, and you can sometimes see what those opposing zones look like, get a little bit more granularity of them, and a little bit more confirmation and confidence in where that trade is actually going to turn at. Moving over to the VIX, right, we'll take a look at volatility. Volatility overall still is fairly low and doesn't seem like it's wanting to move strongly up right now. And it does have a few supply zones in the way, which could be an indication that we're not going to see a large correction right here. So let's start with our 240-minute chart, because this is the one that's got most of the information on it that we need. And we talked about this spike up into this area yesterday and how we weren't expecting it to change or continue down too far past this area. And so we haven't, right? For the past day now, we've just been bouncing back and forth in here. And I would highly expect that price is going to, or the VIX movement here is going to come back up into these upper areas here at 21 and 22. And then from there, you could see that much bigger move back down, potentially, get back down to this, 14, 13 area, which is kind of the overall new normal now. So in a 60-minute time frame, again, we had a little bit of additional supply zones here that we were using to take a look at some of our index trades yesterday. And as you can see, price came up into this area very initially, right at about 10:15, and then dropped out of there. A reasonable drop, right? So you knew that you were going to have a move up yesterday, and sure enough, that's what happened. But then as price is getting down to this 1750 area here, which is just a very strong area of support, you're not seeing any additional movement down below there just yet. And I don't think we will until we get back up into those upper areas on the 240-minute chart. So that's really it for the VIX today. Again, I wouldn't expect it to go down much more. I would look for that bigger correction up to the 240-minute areas that we talked about here. And if it does get up there and we get down into some good demand zones on the indexes, then that would be a great place to get back in long on them. Take advantage of those retracements and then hold on to those positions for a bit longer. All right, looking at Nikkei. And we had some very significant moves back down yesterday, much stronger than any of the other indexes. And I'll just, again, the only chart that we need to look at today is the 60-minute one. And we'll bring this up and kind of walk through exactly what happened here. So price came right down into these two the zones that were one on top of each other. And again, when this happens, you can look at the overall structure and formation to understand which one of these is going to be the stronger one, which one's actually going to hold. And in this case, right, you had the leg out from the second zone that was much stronger or longer and stronger than the leg out of the first zone, which means there's a higher probability price is going to come deeper into this overall area. And sure enough, that's what happened, right? The first zone just got blasted through. And we'll just mark that off because that one did not work, but the second one worked for a bit. We'll see if it holds. Again, just because of overall weakness is showing up right now, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a little bit lower of a drop here, but this is the only one that we had any really good solid information on. And actually this one hasn't come up to our targets yet. Let me just put that up here just so we can see how far up this one would have to go in order to meet our exit strategy. So come up to the 28,992 is that target area there that we would look to get up to. All right. Everything else on the Nikkei, though, you're just, again, make sure we take a look at this, the bigger picture on the daily time frame. All right, this is one of the ones that we can use to see if there's bigger weaknesses overall in the entire, kind of global index market. And as you can see, we need a price to go up to this 30,000 area up here before we really would see a potentially bigger move down. Otherwise, we're just bouncing around inside this overall white space that we just can't seem to get out of at all. All right, let's move on to our U.S. indexes, and we have the ES, and won't go back into it again, but we did have that negative divergence showing up on the weekly chart. Did not have it on the daily chart yet, so it wasn't good solid confirmation. However, still some indication that a corrective action was coming. And the only other chart we have any other information on right now, even at an intermediate time frame, is the 60-minute chart, and we've got this area right here. Again, it's turning into probably a little bit of a stronger area now, the 47.62, because we've built up some nice white space in here, and so once price drops below this, we could certainly see it coming down and hitting here, and then bouncing back up. Again, these are one of the ones where I would look for a correlation of this hitting and maybe something like one of those VIX supply zones hitting, or another one of the major indexes having another demand zone in the same area as well. Nothing else above that's created, nothing else in between here either that we're interested in looking at right now. Jumping down to the 15-minute chart just to see if there's anything that we could take on a much shorter time frame. We're still in an overall uptrend, so I would be very, very, very cautious of taking any shorts here until we get a confirmation of the trade or the trend change, and then looking potential other areas to get long again. The only thing that we have is that 60-minute area, and then we've got this other one that's right below it at 47.41 on a 15-minute chart. And again, just make sure that the trend hasn't changed by the time we get down there. If you're in a full down trend by that time on a 60-minute chart, then that would be a much lower probability that this trade is going to work. All right, NASDAQ. Didn't quite set new all-time highs on this one. Yesterday, like we did with the ES. So we still have that negative divergence on the daily chart. Didn't get there on the weekly chart yet. 240-minute area, we've got, we had this, again, it was an area of interest. We just wanted to take a look at it, and I think we actually said, we had to clear the level. Hang on, we had to clear this pivot to the left before this zone actually worked out, right? It was just very high in this overall move. So even though it was a zone, we knew it wasn't going to actually hold. We got this couple of these same areas here on the Nasdaq as we do on the ES. And if these zones line up at the same time as price is coming back down, again, good confirmation that we could potentially take one of those trades back along again. And then going down to a 60-minute chart to see if we've got that same area here as we did on the ES, and we don't. So we look for that 240-minute zone to match up on the Nasdaq with the 60-minute one on the ES, again, for that additional confirmation there. On the 15-minute chart, any quick moves here, and just want to point these areas out again because we did talk about them yesterday. Small move up out of this one, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. You got overnight zones here that was created in the London Open, but then hit right at the open of the U.S. markets. And as you can see here, the small move up, but then it just came down and completely crushed it. And that's why, generally speaking, unless there's some other extenuating circumstances, I won't take any trades, for overnight zones that are hit during the U.S. market opens. And again, here, remember, we're still in an overall uptrend, so you want to be very cautious about taking any shorts. I will say, just generally speaking, these look like very, very nice areas here. So the zone structure is really good. In particular, this one here that was just created. We're taking out a couple of these pivot lows over here. And so, again, if your trade plan allows you to take shorts in the index market, counter trend, then this type of structure is the one that would really, one you would be looking for that has some additional strength to it. All right, RTY. So just very quickly, what happened on the daily chart over here? And again, we've been talking about these areas for quite some time now, and these are just areas that we were looking to create solid zones from if price movement had dropped below this 2100 area here to really confirm it. It did not, and so we are not surprised to see smaller movements as price comes up in here because it's still an area of imbalance, but they're just not in these for the long haul. And so you see price came right up into this area here yesterday, has dropped down some, maybe a little bit more of a drop out of here, but not too much. Again, this is not going to be a trend changing area here. So if you did take this one, I would say, move your stop up, right? Don't take a whole lot of additional risk on this and bet on this actually changing the overall trend. Nothing new created on the 240-minute chart that we're interested in. Let's look at the 60-minute. We've got the area right above still that we are interested in, even though that would be a counter trend trade. It's still a very strong structure. Looking up and left here, nothing else that's supporting this move coming down, and then there's nothing, below that's going to stop it either on a 60-minute chart. Let's take a look on a 15 to see if we can get any good day trades out of this. And the area that we had put in yesterday did end up working out very well, right? This would have hit our nominal targets. So just pulling this up real quick, right? That's where the target would have been. So price came right down into this area here. Good solid zone, good look left area here that gave you good confirmation that this zone was going to work. Again, created during the U.S. market open and then hit during the next day U.S. market open and had enough strength to hold up, and it is still here. All right, so this is a fairly solid area of resistance now. Just note that it's already been used. Yeah, price came in here 1, 2, 3 on its 4th time in right now. At some point, I would expect this to break for sure. It's not going to hold up much longer. And then, kind of similar to what we just saw on the Nasdaq too, you got a little bit of a couple of supply zones being created here that show there's maybe a little bit more weakness in these areas. I would have liked to have seen this area, area of resistance or support broken first before you take either of these trades, just to confirm that you're in that, a little bit of a higher time frame downtrend first. All right, let's look at the Dow real quick. Again, did not quite set an all-time high yesterday. We did get the negative divergence on RSI on our daily chart, and then we saw a little bit on the 60-minute chart as well. And so you can see that right here, right where we had price moving up these areas, and then of course you had your negative divergence. And so again, not unexpected, we were going to get a small correction out of here, and that is what is happening now. And again, so this is another area on the 60-minute chart that lines up with the ES one. So again, really good confirmation. If these hit together or close together, this would be very, very solid areas to get back on as a nice retracement and continue just these movements up. A 15-minute chart, any areas where we could take a shorter day trade at. And again, still in the overall uptrend, so we're going to be very cautious of any shorts. And as I'm looking down and left and not seeing anything down here until we get into that 60-minute area, and so that zone is going to be much stronger than any 15-minute one will be. All right, let's take a look at a couple of our other futures markets here. So let's see here, bigger picture, right? And we're still, let's pull us up on the daily chart real quick, right? We had multiple days in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row moving up. And so again, not unusual to see a bit of a corrective action here as well. Nothing on the daily chart that's going to keep us from falling any lower, though. There's nothing on the 240-minute chart that was created yesterday either. And then just getting down onto the 60-minute, it's really the same story that we looked at yesterday as well, where we've got these two areas noted here, and then just a whole bunch of white space being created right now. So we want to either pop up above this or down below into some, into good solid zone. And then what you will find, though, is that when you find that zone, you're going to come right back through all of this space here. So these are some of the areas where you could potentially change your targets from just a straight, modifier of 1, 2, or 3, or even 4 to 1, and say, look, we're going to get through all of this space, and then maybe move your target to the top of those areas. All right, so just because we talked about this yesterday, I just want to bring it up again and talked about that, kind of a unique situation of finding a good reversal pattern on a share bar chart. And so got into this short here and pulled it off right before it hit this zone. This zone did work, right? It bounced up just over a 1-to-1, but then because it was so high in the overall move, the price did come back down and bust through it. So just wanted to show what actually happened with that based on the trade that we had on for yesterday. And then we had this area of interest, and again, this was one of those ones where you didn't get really good confirmation that price was going to change direction here, and of course it broke down right through it. So no surprise there at all. Looking at a 15-minute chart, let's see if we've got any good other day trade opportunities. And I'm just not seeing anything at all here. Again, just be cautious today, tomorrow. Remember, we're going into a very long weekend where the markets are going to be closed on, I think they actually close late on Thursday into Friday, and then of course all weekend, so you get some significant gap probabilities coming out of the long weekend like that. So unless you are very comfortable and have good solid positions with a lot of wiggle room on them, just be very, very cautious of holding some of these contracts over a long weekend like that. Looking at gold, and we did get some pretty good movement out of this 60-minute zone here. I'll pull this up real quick. Right now, it's interesting because this one I had already pulled off. My trade entry was set for right here. Didn't fill it, and so I considered this whole move down to be completing this area, and I've actually pulled that trade off, so it didn't hit it. And sure enough, this zone still worked, and actually, obviously worked out very, very, very well. So there was quite a bit of strength in this zone, quite a bit of imbalance, and if you had held on to that one, obviously it was a very, very positive trade for you. And then just looking at any areas what we could look into of, for a retracement perspective, and the only one that I'm seeing right now at all is going to be this one right here. And this has to be a quick retracement, before price moves too much lower. Otherwise, you're going to get a confirmed down confirmed downtrend, which means by the time price comes back up to this area, it would be in an uptrend, which would make it a counter trend trade. So just be careful of this one. Look for a quick retracement into this area and not trying to take this one after a longer move down. Looking at a 15-minute chart just to see, what any potential shorter-term trades, and just to go over what we talked about yesterday as well. We had this quick retracement in here, which is, I stated there, these are the types of trades that I find work very well for me on gold, is these quick retracements, but you got to catch them in time, right? It's not something you can really prep for ahead of time. So that one worked, and as you can see, the other two zones that we had drawn here that were not those types of quick retracement trades, just blew through them both. So let me just mark those for us so we can keep track of this data. All right, not sure what happened to that one. Okay, we'll zoom back in on that again. And all right, so what else do we have here that, again, looking for these quick retracement type trades here. Now the problem is I'm just zoom back out again so you can see this better, right? We've now had a pretty significant move out. This trade would have been taken off the table because it ended up being a counter trend trade. So not even going to mark that because that doesn't fit our rules overall. And not seeing anything here. We're also fairly far down in this move. So what we'd be looking for now is, did we get down into a higher time frame area that would potentially change this overall movement and give us a corrective action back up again. And as I'm looking down through, each of these areas, we're just not seeing anything at all that would cause us to think that this movement is done. And so again, just looking back up and trying to find those retracement areas and not finding any really good structure overall here. All right, take a look at natural gas then. And we are still moving up out of the weekly area now. I'll show this on a 240-minute chart because this is really kind of the key one to look at here. We've just got this back and forth area, created a lot of white space here. Need to break this 4.1 line. Once we get a candle that closes above this one, this will be the indication that we now have a confirmed trend change, and we're back. It'll be a neutral trend at first, and then once we get another higher low, then we'll get that confirmation that we are in the uptrend. So now we'll be looking for this to break first, and then from here you would look for the retracements back into other demand zones created coming out of there. And so this is that same, well, not quite the same line here, but fairly close, right? The line's really down about this 4.1 area here. Again, need to close above that. And Looking at this one, actually this area here looked like it was a very, very solid one, and it just didn't work. Sometimes they don't. Again, before I would take anything on a 60 or higher time frame, I would want to see this line broken. So a candle has to close above here first, above this line. If a candle closes above this line, we've got that confirmation of a uptrend, and then look for close retracements into demand zones that would allow you to get back onto this longer move up. All right, on a 15-minute area here, we do have, you know, two zones that we drew, and because we were in a sideways trend, this was okay, right? It was not unexpected that that both of these trades would work. I think the bottom one clearly worked out very, very well for us, and the supply zone here almost would have worked for a 4-to-1, but not quite there. So I just marked that one up. Been a blue for a break-even trade. This bottom one down here, obviously, that we drew yesterday or two days ago, came into the zone yesterday and worked out very, very well. So let me just note this one has worked and is now been used, so we will not reuse it again. Not seeing anything down and left that we're interested in, and all these areas that you can see up above as well. These are areas that are interesting, but these are complete counter trend trades. Would not advise taking these at all, honestly. All right. Look at our bonds, and then from here we'll get into our crypto look and see what's going on with those very, very big moves on a lot of the cryptocurrencies over the last two days now. So bonds did see a drop overall today, and just an interesting note, right? Bonds and index markets are typically opposite correlated. So bonds go up, you know, index markets go down, and then bonds go down, index markets go up. When they move together like that, that just means something is a little bit out of whack, and it's a note to kind of be caution. Take a little bit of extra caution. Make sure you've got good solid zones and any of your trades. You want to see the markets working the way that they're supposed to before we, you know, really dive in, especially taking any longer term movements. So really about the only thing we have to look at here is these 60-minute areas, and I talked about these two up above. So this is our 10-year bonds. On the 30-year bonds had the exact same formation on a different time frame. I think it was either a 15 or a 30-minute one. We're looking for price to get up in here because that would have been a really good indication that we could take these for, you know, a much longer move down, and we just never got up there. Now, just as a note, we are creating some kind of interesting looks here. Just mark this as an area of interest, right? It's not a zone yet, but just, you know, I like the formation, I like the way that looks right there. So we'll look for other things on like either the TLT, the ETF for this, or the 30-year to see if we've got some additional weakness there. And then there is nothing below these at all until we get down into some weekly zones, you know, which are another, you know, full 1.5, 2 points below here before we're interested in taking any of these back up again. So just looking at the U.S., this is again 30-year Treasury here, and we did come right down through this area of interest right here, and I'll just jump, you know, zoom in on this so you get an idea. The reason why we moved it that way, first of all, was just the overall formation of it. It just wasn't really solid. It's also obviously a counter trend trade at this point, and we had price come down to this general area 3 times and move up from it, which meant that it was the area of imbalance here was more than likely consumed, and sure enough it was, and so we just broke right down through it. And again, nothing below here that's going to stop this anytime soon. As far as other retracements here, the only thing is that we've got is this same area on a 60-minute chart that we just saw on our 10-year. And this one's a little bit stronger. This candle has to close out as a leg candle. If it does, then I would treat this as a zone and would take a retracement up into here. Just make sure that candle closes out as a leg first, though. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our cryptocurrencies now. And switching back over to TradingView for that. And our watch list here. Let's talk about Bitcoin first. So we did talk about this a little bit yesterday, especially on the daily chart. And I always start with Bitcoin because it tends to act almost like an index for the other cryptocurrencies as well. And so we did have yesterday, we had price had hit this first zone here and it had paused a bit, right? And we weren't expecting price to stay there. And the main reason why is this overall formation, leads you to points down that price is going to come into the lower area down here of this picture perfect zone. And then on top of that, we also had on a 240-minute chart, we had this another picture perfect zone embedded inside of that daily zone. And when that happens, these tend to have overall a lot more strength in here. And honestly, this view right here of this leg out for the second zone being much longer than the leg out for the first zone, I would still think we're going to get another retracement back down, maybe through this first one into this middle area here. I'd say actually your 46,200 is probably or maybe even 46,300 is a good entry point if you're going to use the entire overall zone here. But again, it appears as though it is working exactly as expected, and so we would definitely see this being a bigger move up. May not be an overall trend changing move, but will certainly you certainly get a good solid trade out of this area. And nothing really else that we want to look at, right? You've got this daily on a 240 zone that you're going to move up out of. Nothing else really on a lower time frame that you're going to want to pay attention to there. On Ethereum, we've got same look as this has been the case for a couple of weeks now. Good, very, very solid demand zone down here. Price is going to be held up above here. Although Ethereum does tend to work or to correlate very well with Bitcoin. And so as long as Bitcoin is moving up, Ethereum is probably going to move up as well. DOT, the only other area that we've got here on a 240-minute chart is this one here at 26. And again, this may correspond well with that other bigger move into the lower area of the 240 chart on Bitcoin, which would be the bottom of that daily zone. And if that happens and price comes down into here, this would be a great buy. And I don't know why this color is red and not green. This will be a buy for us when price gets down into this 26 area here. Dogecoin just continues to drop overall. We got a little bit of a bounce right now, not coming up out of any real zones, probably more just responding to the overall move in some of the other larger currencies. And then we are creating some additional supply zones above. So just more of just to note these. Right, obviously we can't trade them, but just to note that price may struggle getting through this one. If you could trade this one, this is probably a good one. On a quick retracement, you could still get a good 3 or 4 to 1 out of here. Again, it's not going to change the overall, or not change, but continue this much bigger move down. You're going to get stopped by that daily zone. Sorry, not on this one. You'll get stopped by probably the bottom part of this 240-minute area over here. All right, AVAX. So we are bouncing back and forth between daily zones right now. And this one has already been used a little bit once, but still has a fair amount of strength in it. I wouldn't expect price to come back down through here, right? If it drops a little bit lower, you could potentially reuse this one as another trade as well. And then 240-minute area here, we did go through this area here, and technically speaking, right, this is a picture perfect zone. So you got the two zones stacked on top of each other, and prices now come into this lower area here, and could actually, you could still take this trade as a confirmation run coming back up out of here, right, and expect you probably will get a reasonable amount of movement out of here. We don't have anything else really getting in the way. The only thing I would say is you've still got a little bit of concern because you're right between the two daily zones here, but that's it. It's a really small amount of concern for the strength of that particular structure over there. Shiba coin, we did drop down right into our 240-minute area, and I'll show you the 60-minute one as well. Right, this was a very strong zone right here. Really good looks as you look left through it, and of course it hit this one at the same time that the Bitcoin hit its 240-minute zone as well. So you had some additional strength here, and then on a 60-minute, we did. This first one worked out very well for us. Let me just mark that up. Really good solid trade out of this one. And then the second one, as expected, did not work because the first part of that zone worked, and that was the way that it was set up from the structure as well. And then actually made a comment, I thought this bottom one down here was going to work better than it did. We got a bounce out of it, but it did not. It didn't hold at all. We had to come back down into that 240-minute area before this one held. So just mark this. All right. Moving on to Matic. And Matic, we still have another 240-minute zone down here below. That again, a good area and good structure. If we can get price to drop into this, this is a highly likely zone to work for us. And that's about it. CRO. Did expect price to move a little bit lower on this one. We've got some really good looks both on the daily chart and on the 240-minute chart. I'm actually going to zoom in on this daily area here because this daily zone corresponds with the 240-minute picture perfect zone area as well. So just want to point that out, right? There's additional confirmation that this one, this zone here could work very, very well for us. And that's really about it for there. Wrapped Bitcoin, a little bit different overall view than the full Bitcoin. But as you can see, we still came into this 240-minute area here, and that's working out very, very well so far. And as long as the price keeps moving up out of that 240-minute zone on Bitcoin itself, I would expect this one to continue to work as well. Let's see, UNI. Nothing on a daily chart here. Nothing really on a 240-minute either, and nothing. There's nothing good here from a demand zone perspective that we want to use to try and get a trade out of. Let's look at algo, because we did come down into this 240-minute area that I thought actually had quite a bit of strength in, and it didn't. Right, it bounced out of there. You can see a little bit of movement back and forth, but overall we just broke down through it, and I think we're probably responding now just again to the overall moves in some of the other major currencies rather than anything specific for algo. look at LN or link, sorry. And again, we're waiting for this daily. Sorry, not waiting for this one, right? This daily zone has already worked once, and actually I wouldn't expect this one to work again, right? Price did come down into it quite a bit. I guess actually I'm looking up on the overall chart that's being shown, and you can't really see the wick very well. Now we can. So you can see, right, price came down and came almost through the entire zone here. So we would not be expecting this zone to work again. If price comes back into it, we'd expect it to fail and continue lower overall. All right, our shorts here worked a couple of days ago, so that was just not, obviously not a short, but since we can't take shorts in Coinbase, so we're working this. But this zone, again, this is one of those quick retracements that you look for. Quick retracement into something like this continues the overall downtrend, and then once you wait for that to turn at the bottom, and that's when you want to start getting back in on those quick retracements back up as price continues to move up out of here. All right, let's see here. Look at XLM, and I'm just looking at our daily chart here, and then the 240-minute, and nothing is jumping out. So SOL, we did have on a 60-minute area here. I'll zoom in on this. Sorry, that one is one that we still have to fix. Okay, we've got the one all the way at the bottom here, right, where as you can see, right, prices come into this one a couple of times, but just to the very top of it. So a very, very strong zone. Again, something like this, that's a demand zone on something like this, where you're far enough down and you've got confirmation from a couple of other currencies that price is going to change in this area. That these would be indications that something like this zone could work more than once. So certainly, price is going to struggle getting through here, though. And moving on to LCX, coming right down into this 240-minute zone right now. Again, relatively strong one, right? A little bit of a lot of wick action that's coming up out of this area here, and I'll zoom in on this just so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about, right? These two base candles in here, this one's got a significant wick on it, so that's a little bit unusual. Not quite as clean as we would normally like it. The rest of the structure looks really good, and price is dropping down into it. So this would be one where starting to look to take this trade, and then this one probably going to hold on to for a little bit longer. And then we do have another area right below it as well. Let me zoom in on this just to show that better. And so you've got this structure right here. The second one, honestly, is not quite as strong. So I would expect the first one to work a little bit better than the second one will. And ADA. Bring up the 240-minute chart. You can see again why price has moved down from this area, and we are looking for, you got a couple of zones stacked on top of each other down here. Actually, all of them have pretty good indicators that they're going to work. So I would honestly probably end up taking every one of these, and one of them is going to work for that bigger move up. All right, let's jump over to our list, see if there's anything here that we are currently tracking that's not showing up on our main index list. And nothing on AMP that's interesting. On CLV, we did finally get down through and just barely touch the bottom of this second zone right here. So this one here, like I said, if depending on how you had your exit set up here at 0.87, some people probably got filled on this. I know that our account did not. So just waiting for this stop to hit down here at 0.705, or or hopefully we'll get another a bigger turn back up, and we'll be able to go back up and actually get targeted out for the trade that we're in here. Nothing else really big on CLV, right? Even on a daily chart here, you're starting to get to close to, not quite all-time lows, right, but close to where this currency started at. All right, XLM, I think we already looked at XLM. ANK. Look at a 240-minute chart, and you can see we've got this zone right here drawn. And again, one of these ones where we'll just be tracking this, and what you'll probably end up seeing is stop set a little bit too close on here. Again, we'll monitor it, and if so, what we may end up doing is changing our rules so that these stops go out a little bit further to take advantage of more of these trades. QNT. Again, the only thing that we've got down here is this very solid daily zone. This would be one of those ones, right? If price comes down into here, this is where you could potentially get on this, and this will be a much bigger move up. But we're still going on average price movement a day or two away, even if we continue a stronger move down overall. There's nothing that we've got set up here that we're looking to take advantage of. And spell on a 240-minute chart, we did come through this first area here, and then we've got a stronger area down here below, right? This one really, if you look left on this one, you can see a couple of the pivot highs that this one took out. So again, this will be a much stronger trade here at 0.019 area. IoT, just no real good structures to take advantage of here. And then RLC, same thing. I think we've got so pull up to 60-minute charts here. We still have these two 60-minute areas. I would be just cautious that by the time price gets down here, we may be in a downtrend, which would make this a counter trend trade. But if we're not, then this structure here does lend towards being lower in this overall area. So the first zone may end up not working. Second one, higher probability second one's going to work, and maybe even an entry point somewhere right between the two, and then just move your stop all the way to the bottom of this entire area here. All right, and that is it for our cryptocurrencies. It looks like the index markets are getting a little bit of a bump up from where they're at right now. Again, this corrective action is not unexpected where we're going right now, and there's a couple of really good 60-minute zones on, I think, YM and ES, both in a 240-minute on NASDAQ. Those would be really great places to get back in on a longer move up if we can get down there. So again, that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel so you get notifications when we release new videos and new information. And of course, if the lesson was helpful for you today, please hit the like button. Have a happy and safe trading day, and we'll see you all tomorrow at 8:15 Eastern Time.